ladies and gentlemen, and one of the most creative scorers in the W.
Starting to go on a rampage here. They've cut it to 5.
And with the first overall selection in the 2023 NHL Draft, the Chicago Blackhawks are very proud to select from the Regina Pats, the Western Hockey League, Connor Bedard.
What is going on, everybody? This is Mike Hughes, and you are listening to Mike on the Mic and everything Chicago sports-related podcast. Today, we got a great show for you, man. I mean, this is a conversation that we've been trying to have since the beginning of the season started. You know, we want to make sure that we're careful with what we say today because anything within the next 4 days can happen, and that was evident last night when you saw Lucas Giolito and Ronaldo Lopez traded immediately following the Chicago Cubs and the Chicago White Sox game, going to the Los Angeles Angels. Lucas Giolito and Ronaldo Lopez just got traded for 2 top 3 prospects in their farm system, which is absolutely insane considering that neither of them are really having great seasons, or the last couple seasons haven't been great for either of them, you know. So you look at that, and today's conversation is obviously, will the Chicago Cubs and Jed Hoyer be buyers or sellers, or just stay pat at the deadline? And there's a lot of different ways this can go. Obviously, last night we talked a little bit about it and kind of discussed what could potentially happen, where we could potentially be just a few days from now. You know, I made a joke, and I mean it. I definitely mean it. I definitely stand by it at the same time. It's a situation where if you look at the lineup cards for the Chicago Cubs versus the White Sox on July 26, 2023, versus when they come back to Wrigley Field after the deadline in August, we could be looking at 2 very different teams on both sides. I mean, we're having conversations that, you know, you might see Tim Anderson get traded. You might see Cody Bellinger get traded. You might see Marcus Stroman get traded. We just saw Lopez and Giolito get traded. Lance Linden's in the conversation. Chicago is a hot market right now for teams that are looking to acquire smaller pieces that are going to be bigger pictures for obviously a World Series contending team. Now, Cody Bellinger is not a small piece, you know what I mean? But Lucas Giolito and Ronaldo Lopez definitely were. But they're big pieces to a team like that. To the Angels, I mean, this is the wrong team. You know what I mean? I don't think it's really going to make that much of a difference. It's something, but it's not that much of a difference. But with that being said, man, I want to get into this episode, and I really just want to talk about first and foremost what we're seeing right now for the Chicago Cubs, year 3 of the rebuild, I guess you could call it, because you look at what the pipeline was in 2020 and you look at what that's going to potentially look like going into 2023, and we're at a very different state that we were just a few years ago, just a couple years ago. I mean, just even respectfully, even 2 years ago. You know, we are in a position right now where the Chicago Cubs need to start winning games. David Ross has been the manager of this team for 4 years, and I don't think anybody can sit up here right now and tell me if he's going to be here long term, or if he's good, or if he's not. And some people feel indifferent because he hasn't had a great roster. The one season he did have a good roster, he obviously won the division in 2020. Small sample size, of course, only 60-something games, but nonetheless, you won a division title in your first year. They, you know, erased the team immediately following that. The first half of the season for the Cubs was great. You were no-hitting the Dodgers. You were doing exactly what you needed to do. Then you just fell off towards the trade deadline, and they traded everybody away. But I want to point out, I think this is one of the more important conversations for me right now. And really what I'm looking at moving forward. In 2021, I look at the Chicago Cubs pipeline and I look at what they were able to do. And you just don't see an insane amount of talent. You don't see guys that are currently on this roster. You don't see guys who you could potentially say are franchise winning guys. You obviously had Brennan Davis, you obviously had Miguel Amaya, and you had a couple other guys as well, and that's cool, but it really was lackluster to say the least. And I think that's something that going into 2023, we say the complete opposite of. And that's really how I'm looking at it. The Cubs' talent in the pipeline in 2021 was very bleak. I mean, we're talking about Cole Roedier and guys like that, top outfielders, and that's not a shot at them. Braylon Marquez, other guys like that. I mean, it's not what Jed Hoyer or the Cubs organization would probably like it to be. And that's just being honest. That's just being honest. And I think that's when you're honest with yourself and you understand the situation and you understand that we're not as great as we'd like to think we are. Right now, looking at it going into 2023, before obviously acquiring everybody through the trade, we had Ryan Jensen, not even Caleb Killian, Cole Franklin, Cole Roedier, Brennan Davis, Isaiah Mina, pardon me. But that's really it. That's really it. Brennan Davis and Miguel Amaya were obviously the huge focal points for this team. And bringing those guys in is so important. You had Brennan Davis was our number one prospect. You had P. Crow Armstrong coming in right after him. Obviously, Jordan Wicks gets drafted. Owen Casey. And that's obviously trading the core. Kevin Alcantara, Miguel Amaya is at 6. Christian Hernandez is at 7. Ed Howard is at 8. You have Alexander Canario at 9, and Reginald Preciado is at 10. Looking just a few years into that, P. Crow Armstrong is at number 1. Cade Horton is at number 2. Ben Brown is at 3. Kevin Alcantara is 4. Jordan Wicks is at 5. Matt Mervis is at 6. Brennan Davis, the number 1 prospect from 2 years ago, is now at 7. Jack Farias is at 8. Christian Hernandez, 9. Alexander Canario at 10, Owen Casey, James Triantos, Daniel Palencia, Kevin Mead, a bunch of other guys, DJ Hers, Caleb Killian, Hayden Wesneski, Miguel Amaya. We can do this all day. Ed Howard. I mean, the farm system looks amazing. The farm system is top 3 in baseball, which 2 years ago it was roughly around 10 to 15. It wasn't what it is now. And I think such a huge part of that, when you look at that and you go, are they going to trade again? Are they going to trade away Marcus Stroman? Are they going to trade away Cody Bellinger? Are all these other guys going to be traded? I don't think you could sit here and have those conversations. I don't think you can, because you're in a point right now. How many prospects do you need? Now, you can never have enough. You know what I mean? That's the reality of the situation. You can never have enough prospects in the pipeline. That's how you create a dynasty. That's how you create longevity and just a team that's going to consistently win for years to come. We're not trying to look at a 1-year window like we had in 2016. We're looking at the longevity of things. We want to be good for the next 5 to 10 years. That's what Theo always said. But the one problem with Theo was he would jump the gun and he would trade everybody when you really got close, which sometimes you have to do. You have to make trades for Aroldis Chapman. You don't have to make trades for Jose Quintana. But, you got other situations going on. With that being said, though, when you have a top 3 farm system, and you understand that guys, to name a couple that I believe are going to be a part of this team for years to come, BJ Murray, Ben Brown, P. Crow Armstrong, Cade Horton, Kevin Alcantara, Matt Mervis, Brennan Davis, Christian Hernandez, James Triantos, all these guys at one point, they're going to be great. I believe that. But what are they going to be when they come up and they're 21 to 25 years old? They've never played in the MLB before. They're all rookies together, kind of similar to that 2015 Chicago Cubs team that went all the way to the NLCS just to get swept by the Mets. There's a reason we got swept by the Mets. It wasn't because the Mets were better. It was because they had more skilled players. They had more experience. They've been there before. That's really what it comes down to at the end of the day. You bring in guys, obviously. You bring back Dexter Fowler. You bring in Jason Hayward, Ben Zobrist, Aroldis Chapman. You bring in all these guys for a reason. Because when you have guys coming up like Baez, Bryant, Schwarber, Russell, obviously Rizzo was there for years prior to that, but Rizzo entering his prime, Wilson Contreras, having all these guys coming up through the pipeline and making these conversations and saying, listen, at the end of the day, we can have the number 1 prospect in the world. We can have the number 1 farm system in the entire league. At the end of the day, we need experience. And right now you have Nico Horner locked up for the next 3 to 5 years. You have Ian Happ locked up for the next 3 to 5. You have a guy like Dansby Swanson here for the next 5 years. You have Cody Bellinger, a former MVP, a former Gold Glover, a guy who is currently batting over 340 against lefties and 290 against righties. Absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. Batting over 300 on the year. Belly bombs left and right. Cody Bellinger is emerging himself into who he used to be. And the Chicago Cubs would be fools to trade him. And that's really how I feel. Like, we've had these conversations time and time again, and I try to remain realistic, and I try to sit here and, be a part of the system and be a part of the rat race and say, yeah, I think it's a good idea to get more prospects. But at some point, you need to play competitive baseball. At some point, you need guys who are going to come up in PCA and Kevin Alcantara and Alexander Canario and all these other guys. And you're going to look at yourself and you're going to say, look, at the end of the day, they need to be mentored by somebody. Dansby Swanson, Ian Happ, and Cody Bellinger are amazing guys to be mentored by. Jan Gomes too. I'll throw him in. You know what I mean? Like, those are great guys to be mentored by. And I think right now, the reality of that situation really is just discussing that and understanding that this team's going to be good for a very long time. I do believe that. I think they're going to be good for a very long time. I think they're going to be great when they finally get these guys all together. And it's going to be really interesting to see how it turns out. But the reality of that situation is this. When all these guys come up, why do you see teams like the Reds struggle at times? Why do you see teams like the Guardians? Why do you see teams like Seattle? All of them struggle. Why? They're all super young. And you need somebody to help ride the ship. You need help from somebody who understands what it's like to win. Dansby Swanson, another Gold Glover, another World Series champion with the Atlanta Braves. He won a ring. He was amazing in contention. He's had individuals like Freddie Freeman, Ronald Acuna Jr., Ozzie Albies, and so many others a part of that organization with him. He understands what it takes to be a part of winning baseball. He understands what it takes to win. Cody Bellinger has played with Mookie Betts, also Freddie Freeman, and a bunch of other, Justin Turner, other amazing players, Clayton Kershaw. We can do this all day. You need to have veterans. And to Goro's point right here, he makes a statement and says, good point on having veterans on the team. To that point, they're not just veterans, though. Like, your typical veteran is a guy who obviously he's just there to mentor everybody. He's a good position player. He gets the job done. He's not great. Jan Gomes is a good veteran. You know what I mean? Trey Mancini is a veteran. Dude, if your veteran is batting over 300 and batting over 340 against lefties and over 290 against righties, and he's a Gold Glove center fielder who can also play Gold Glove first base, like, what are we doing having these conversations? Now, if you want to look at me right straight in the face, we saw what they just got for the Angels just got for a guy like Lucas Giolito and Ronaldo Lopez. We're going to trade away Kyle Hendricks, Drew Smyly, Julian Merriweather, Michael Fulmer, Brad Boxberger, whoever else. It's okay. That's fine. No problem with that. If somehow we already did this video about Marcus Stroman. I truly believe if you trade Marcus Stroman, I don't have a problem with that. I treat it like a Aroldis Chapman in the New York Yankees. Let them know we'd love to have you back at the end of the year. We're getting a top prospect or two for you right now, and we want you to compete in 2024 and moving forward. That's a great place to be. That's a great mentality to have. Because like I said, don't get caught up in the now. Look at it for what it is. This is the greatest statistical season he's ever had. 2.47 ERA, 2.47 ERA going into July. Currently, at the end of July, he has a 3.50 ERA. It's just a reality of the situation. Guys like Blake Snell are on fire right now. In 54 innings, he's only given up 4 runs. That's amazing. Guys like Marcus Stroman are on the down. And that's really what it is. And it's not that, he's not as valuable. People are still going to value him because of what he was at the first half of the season. But gave up 7 runs last night against the White Sox. It's not looking good. Didn't have a great start against Boston. Didn't have a great start against Milwaukee. Hasn't had great starts all July. Like, went from 247 to 350 very quickly. And mind you, those are only a few starts, so he can definitely fix it up and get back to that point, or at least sub 2 something ERA. But sub 3 probably, but it's definitely something for me right now. If you want to make an argument, hey, we're going to send Marcus Stroman to the Tampa Bay Rays for Curtis Mead, third baseman prospect, one of the best third baseman prospects in all of baseball. Cool. If you're going to send him to the Astros or the Texas Rangers or the Los Angeles Dodgers, cool. Don't sit here and tell me that you're trading away Cody Bellinger, though. You need a face to this franchise. I love Dansby Swanson. Dansby Swanson's not the face of the franchise. Just respectfully, he's not. You know what I mean? Like, stud definitely gets paid the most. But I don't look at him and say he should be the best player on a championship team. I've never really felt that way. And it could be Pete Crow Armstrong. It could be BJ Murray. It could be Matt Mervis. It could be Brennan Davis. It could be Jordan Wicks. It could be Cade Horton. It could be one of those guys in the pipeline. But why bet on a guy you've never even seen take an MLB at bat when you got a guy who's a former MVP, World Series champion, who was a part of several World Series? I'm sure they lost him. The majority of they won 1 out of the 4 they went to, but one was a hack from 2017 from the Astros. So you look at that and you understand and you have these conversations with yourself that every single day we can sit down and say, let's bring in more prospects. Let's bring in more prospects. But at the end of the day, we need somebody who's here right now. We need somebody who's here right now, and we need somebody who's going to produce for us, somebody who's going to be the face of the franchise, somebody who's going to be great. You trade away Cody Bellinger for a top prospect, and I start to really question what Jed Hoyer's plan is. Because, again, we've seen teams do this time and time again. Why the Dodgers remain good and remain a dominant force is because they produce prospects up the ass, but they sign free agents. They bring people in. They make trades. They make things happen. Sure, they already went to the World Series, but they brought in Mookie Betts. They brought in Freddie Freeman. They brought in a bunch of other pieces. Why? Because they can. The Padres, and obviously the Padres aren't doing well right now, but the Padres look like a solid team. Bring in Xander Bogaerts. Why? Because they can. And the Cubs can. I mean, that's just really what it looks like. I mean, I really can't sit up here and express that enough, man. Like, as somebody who coaches ball, like, you need somebody who's been there before. You can't have a team full of freshmen. They're going to be studs. And you might look at them and say, man, a couple years from now, when these guys finally get it under them, when these guys finally start to have conversations and these guys start to really figure out the league as a whole, we're going to be in a place that no one's going to touch us in a very unprofessional way. And I say this all the time, nobody can fuck with us. And that's how I truly feel. But if you tell me that we're trading away Cody Bellinger, we're trading away Ian Happ, we're trading away this, and this, I'm going to look at you and I'm going to say, dude, you're an idiot. Like, what are we doing? Now, I don't know. You could trade away Cody Bellinger for the number 1 prospect in all of baseball, and I won't say anything about it. But if you're going to trade him away and then get a low-end guy or something, like, it's just, again, I've reiterated this. I would understand it 2 years ago because we needed to bring up our farm system. We needed a reevaluation of the guys that we view as top talent. Like, I love Brennan Davis, but the fact that Brennan Davis is number 7 in our pipeline right now is a good thing. You know what I mean? Like, that means we have a lot of talent in this pipeline. He's also talented, but it means we have much more. Outside of Brennan Davis at the beginning of 2021 and Miguel Amaya, that was really all that was going on. But let's be real about the situation. We got prospects out the ass right now. We got more to spare. I would like another third baseman prospect or another first baseman prospect just for the hell of it. You never know with guys like Morel or BJ Murray or Matt Mervis. Like, I love them. But again, you can't bank on prospects. You have to sit here and be real with yourself. Now, again, like I said, Kyle Hendricks, Drew Smyly, Michael Fulmer, Julian Merriweather, Brad Boxberger, guys like Michael Talkman, Miles Mastroboni, guys like that, cool. I don't give a fuck. And respectfully, I love Kyle. Thank you for everything. But at this point in his career, it's like, what are we doing? You know what I mean? And it's like, if you can get something for him, then I understand it. But the guy who's batting over 300, who's carrying this offense in Cody Bellinger, we just took 3 out of 4 games against St. Louis. Then we just swept the Chicago White Sox in the south side of Chicago. We went to 35th Street and we fucked them up. And now we're going to go play St. Louis again and hopefully take another 3 out of 4, maybe even sweep them. See what happens. We're 4 games back in the division, 4 to 6 games. We can make a run right now. So to me, you have those conversations with yourself. If you're going to trade away the bullpen, bring up guys like Ben Brown, bring up guys like Ryan Jensen, bring up guys like that, Riley Thompson. Cool, no problem. No problem. I have no issue with that. Bring back Caleb Killian, bring back Hayden Wesneski and see what's happening, because it's going to be worse than Marcus Stroman has been. It's just been real. And I'm not trying to flip-flop because obviously I was so high on him in the beginning of the season. but I was also trying to trade him the entire season. But yeah, it's definitely something you have to look at that for what it is and understand that we're in a situation right now where we could win this division. And I truly feel that way. So why not win the division? Like, what are we doing? Why are we always selling? Why are we always doing this? You're putting together a great product and you're going to shoot us out of a potential amazing ending to this season, to build something off of this season, to give these guys a playoff run, even if it's a wild card appearance, to give them that to finish off this season is such a huge momentum booster than just finishing off the season at the end of September and then packing your bags. You know what I mean? Like being third or fourth in division. That's not fun. There's nothing to build off of. It's just another year of losing. Now you get a taste. You give Christopher Morel, you give him a taste, Miguel Amaya a taste, you give other guys a taste of this. I mean, we got something special cooking. 2024 could be interesting. You bring up PCA, you bring up whoever else, and we got something going. But that's what I think. You guys let me know what you guys think. I'm going to get out of here. We got some things we got to do later. I'll be on the Chicago State of Mind podcast with Brian and Teague and Al later today. We're going to be talking about Chicago Bears training camp at 3:45 Central. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. This is Mike Hughes from the All Sports All Plays Network. We'll be back at it later tomorrow and later tonight. We'll check you guys out later. Peace.
All sports, all plays. Yeah. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making a plays. You talking the game, get you through the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety, topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. In the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, they working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays.